All right, good morning. This is the April 19th, 2023 special meeting of the zoning administrator. And so this is a hybrid meeting that's both in person and on Zoom. Mendocino County Zoning Administrator meetings are conducted in person at 860 North Bush Street in Ukiah, and virtual attendance is available via Zoom. Meetings are live streamed and available for viewing on the Mendocino County YouTube page. And so with that, I will go ahead and go through the agenda. Meeting is called to order at 9 a.m. And may I get a determination of noticing?
Legal notice has been determined on the matter.
Thank you. And then as a zoning administrator, this is a special meeting. I will announce that I will recess the meeting no matter where we are at 9:25, and then we should reconvene shortly thereafter at 10 a.m. Because this is a special meeting, the zone administrator was double booked. So wherever we're at 9:25, we'll recess and then we'll reconvene at 10 o'clock or shortly thereafter. So with that, we have a determination of noticing. The item, case number 3A on the agenda is V 2021-0003. This is a variance. The owner is Douglas Crane and Catherine Crane Trust. Applicant H and Stout Outdoor Advertising. And Greg Rediker?
Rediker, yes.
Is okay. Request is a variance to allow a double-faced sign to extend 13 feet above the 35-foot height limit, totaling 48 feet. The project's been determined to be categorically exempt from CEQA. The site is located 2.3 miles northeast of Ukiah City Center, lying on the north side of Norgard Lane, 0.02 miles west of its intersection with State Street, located at 210 Norgard Lane, Ukiah. Assessor's parcel number 184-06311. And may I please get a staff report?
Thank you, Administrator. Project Planner Matt Goins. I just want to give a disclaimer here that I'm as sick as a dog, which is why I'm not in the office right now. So
thank you.
I apologize of sniffles and all the other stuff that go along with it. So bear with me here.
Better there than here.
I'm going to start now. There are several key issues to discuss regarding this project. The project was sent to the Airport Land Use Committee for review, where unfortunately no quorum was able to be established in the time period permitted. And because of that, the project was automatically deemed consistent. Regardless of the Airport Land Use Committee's ability to review the project, the FAA conducted an aeronautical study, making a determination of, quote, no hazard to air navigation, end quote, and does not exceed obstruction standards and would not be a hazard to any navigation, air navigation. Other key issues lie in the Ukiah Valley Area Plan. The main concern lies within the UVAP's Section 4 Community Design, Policy CD2, Gateway Enhancement. While this section does discuss exercising caution when considering development within these areas, it doesn't preclude erecting signs or other structures. They're guidelines, and there's no black and white zoning codes that dictate whether or not a sign may be placed on the property, especially a property zoned industrial that has an inherent right for an off-site sign. Lighting for the project was heavily considered and altered several times to ensure that dark sky policies in the general plan would be adhered to, and and that it would lessen the potential impacts to the neighboring houses. The original lighting was facing upward, potentially causing some light scatter into the sky. When questions were raised about the placement of the lights, the applicant was very accommodating and created a downcast lighting system. This system includes light shielding on the sides of the lights, creating less light scatter, and the lighting system can be dimmed and is set on a timer that will turn on at dusk and off at midnight. Several comments were received from the city of Ukiah These comments were addressed in the memo that was uploaded for viewing purposes during this hearing. Staff believes that the city's concerns have been addressed either through the staff report, or the memo attached. One of planning's jobs is to take into consideration the big picture, taking all the information provided to the staff planner, and making sound conclusions based off that information. Staff would like to emphasize that denial of this project will not stop the applicant from installing a sign that is within the 35-foot height limit. It takes in, if this was to take place, the location of the sign would then be pushed further back onto the property so it could be seen from the roadway. This would make the sign more inconvenient and unsafe for people driving on 101, as they'd have to look away from the road much longer than normal, and the sign would be placed further away from the road and further back than any other sign on 101, creating a disadvantage in the applicant's marketing ability, as well as unsafe road environment, which could lead to potential accidents. Additionally, the new location would take up more usable property space and potentially hindering future development. It would be moved closer to the residential neighborhood on the west side and would create more negative impacts. Staff believes the current location chosen is the least impactful to the property and the nearby neighborhoods. However, the only way to minimize these potential impacts is to allow the sign to be placed in its current location with the approval of the 13-foot height variance. With that, staff is recommending approval of this project, and that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and ask the applicant if they would have any statements or comments and so on. And please identify yourself for the record.
Sure, thank you very much. Greg Redeker. It's actually Lamar Advertising of Northern California. Lamar acquired stock in fall of 2021. All of our correspondence and emails have been with Lamar Branding for the last year and a half, and I did ask staff to update that information, so hopefully that won't be a huge issue at this point. We agree with the findings and conditions in the staff report. As was noted, this is a variance where we're asking for 13 additional feet so that we can basically have approximately the same visibility as other industrially zoned properties adjacent to Highway 101 and allow visibility to the sign from both directions. A lot of this had to do with the lighting. As Matt noted, we did go ahead and switch to a top-mounted lighting system shining down with shields. Now, I am not a lighting engineer, but I do know exactly where we put the same lighting system, and it's over in Lake County that we built last year. So I took these photos last night.
And you're going to introduce these for
Yes.
the evidence?
Yes, please. Showing that this is what the light configuration is like. Is there some light that is not hitting the sign? Yes. If you look at that second photograph, you can see there are some bright areas just beneath the sign. There is no significant lighting that is being projected a significant distance from the sign. It's all pretty much sort of in a linear pattern underneath the sign. So we feel like we have adequately addressed the county's concerns regarding lighting in this area. As staff noted, it is the sign itself is allowed by right. Basically, we have demand for additional signage along this part of the corridor from local businesses. And then there are also some other general plan policies which were not discussed in the staff report, which I put in my letter, which I believe is attachment S, talking about preserving industrial or compatible uses next to the airport, being supportive of businesses, and preserving industrial land for industrial uses. So that's really it. We're happy to build another sign here in Mendocino County to serve local businesses, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crane, do you want to add anything?
I'm serving here as agent for the owner of the property. Property's been owned for a little over 30 years. It's got a residence on it and a mobile home that help with the lower end of the housing market. Getting a little bit more rent for this will help with its care, feeding, and maintenance, and help keep those rents on the properties lower, help with property tax, those sorts of things. So we're hoping that this will be another revenue stream.
So the residence that you're mentioning, the rental, this is the one that's located on the east side of Townsend Lane, the one and only
Yes,
one?
yeah, there's a house in the southeast or southwest corner of the property, and directly north of that is a not travel trailer, double wide.
And those are owned by?
They're owned by the
Property owner?
no, the house is owned by the property owner, but there's also a modular home, not modular, mobile home that is owned by the tenant, and they rent the ground.
Okay,
So
but-
there's two residents.
But they're on
They're
the
on the
subject
property,
property?
yes,
Okay,
they are.
thank you.
So helping with having the cash flow from this will help with property taxes and those sorts of things. And we have been approached repeatedly over the years for sign location that fit within the height limitations, and that would have put it substantially further north along the property line or further into the property. Either of those would be very burdensome for the concepts that we have on the drawing board for either industrial yard for somebody who had equipment, or shop space, or storage. Any of our concepts are pretty heavily impacted by having it further along the north line. So we've, in the past, passed on the concept. It was only when Stott came in and was willing to go to the cost and hassle of seeking the variance to put it in a location that fit for the property and was compatible and useful. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
So somewhere on I'm assuming it's on the property or maybe adjacent to it, there's some sort of a fenced-in structure that, is it at an airport beacon?
No, the property was, when we acquired the property, when the family acquired the property, it went, its north property line was the south property line of the airport. And so that fenced-in space you're speaking of is Williams Communication. It's a repeater station for fiber optics. So there's a fiber optic line that comes from the coast. It goes across Highway 253, hits the railroad track, comes up.
So it has nothing to do with the airport?
Has nothing to do with the
Okay.
airport. But that, about a third of the property was sold off to Williams 20-plus
Okay.
years ago.
All right,
But yeah, it has nothing to do with the
All right.
airport.
all right, okay, that answers my question. I see there's somebody in the waiting room, I'm assuming this is somebody from the public,
That's actually a colleague of mine.
Jason Rip. So go ahead and admit them, and as you say, they're a colleague of yours,
Mhm.
so still on the applicant. Mr. Rip, is there anything you would like to add? You're muted.
It's amazing how better we're getting
At doing
at
meetings.
these hybrid meetings.
I think he was just gonna be an observer
All
today
right.
of the meeting, but, because one of the reasons I'm here is that there's actually another, meeting that's going on actually over
Okay.
in Chico where we're based.
All right,
so.
well, let's see, he's still muted, so I'll assume that he's just listening and not asking to speak. So with that, I will go ahead and open the public meeting. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this matter that is a member of the public? Do we have anybody attending from the public?
I do not see any members of the public attending through Zoom.
All right, and there's nobody here
There's nobody
on
out
the
there.
public attending. All right, so at this point, I'll go ahead and return it back to the zoning administrator. For disclosure purposes, I did go out yesterday and site view the property. I wanted to get a feel for what was out there and so on. Thank you for introducing this as evidence. This is light that is primarily focused on the sign and not off-site. My biggest concern is all the residences on Townsend Lane and the impacts to those homes. And based on where the sign would be located at this point, closest to the freeway, it's at the overpass. Moving it closer to the west, as Mr. Goings pointed out, would again bring it closer to the residences. And again, my concern was this beacon or this repeater that was there, how it would impede, because there's an access road that runs alongside the bypass. And I'm assuming that's how you folks will get to the location of the sign and install it, or just go through
Just
the
come on
property?
to the
Will be on
property.
the property.
Okay. And it's not even an access road, it's just a dirt road that looks like it's been created over time. So,
I believe that accesses the city land holdings that are on the east side of the railroad tracks that are south of the old brewery.
mhm.
I'm not sure about that. It's either part of the railroad right of way or the city. There's a little gray area there.
All right. So my biggest concern, like I said, was the impact on the residences. I think the location that has been chosen should not impact the people on the east side of the freeway, because somehow the light, which is supposed to be downcast, has to jump over the freeway, and it's not going to. So I think what you're going to do is you're going to illuminate the freeway, is what you're going to do, but not the residences.
Actually, probably just our property.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think anything's gonna go off the property. You
Yeah.
know, the intent is to limit the light to
Limit
the
the
sign
light,
face itself as much as reasonably possible.
Well, and the first thing that we'd do if we had a industrial user for that property would be some sort of security lighting that was
Mhm.
downcast
Right.
on the space, so they'd just be saving us a light pole.
All right, well, again, I don't feel, I mean, I believe that a lot of the questions have been adequately answered through staff's memo, have provided clarification. I did go out and look at the site, and again, the lighting will be downcast. I mean, this really helps to show how it'll happen. There's an agreement and a condition that lighting will be on a timer, and then turn on at dusk and turn off at midnight.
Yes.
The only thing I'm gonna
I
add,
did have one other thing, we're not sure whether or not there's a navigation easement
uh-huh.
in place, and we'd like to have one. We'd actually like to request that a navigation easement be added to this.
So I've got a condition here, number 8, a navigation easement shall appear on the deed of the subject property. Said navigation easement shall comply with and adhere to policy 3.36 of the Ukiah Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Said easement shall be fully recorded, and appropriate evidence shall be provided to the Department of Planning and Building Services prior to issuance of the building permit for the billboard sign.
Mhm.
Will that suffice? All right. Condition number 10, as staff has written, says sign lighting shall only be utilized from dusk until midnight. I would like to add to that condition with all lighting to be downcast, just to reinforce that.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask that staff modify condition number 10 to read with all lighting to be downcast, period.
And or substantially similar to the photographs that were submitted today.
Yep. And with that, the action of the zoning administrator will be to approve the variance subject to the findings and conditions contained in the staff report, with a modification to condition number 10, which again shall read, sign lighting shall only be utilized from dusk until midnight, comma, with all lighting to be downcast, period. And that's the only change that the zoning administrator would like to make to the conditions of approval. Otherwise, I will go ahead and move to approve the project. Staff, applicants, agents, thank you very much
Thank you.
for the information. This actually really helped.
I
And
thought
so-
it might, that's why I came over and took those photos last night.
And so with that, project's approved, and we have a modification to condition number 10. Moving on to item number 4, do we have any matters from staff? Oh, I just wanted to make sure that the public hearing was closed before action was taken on the item, seeing that there was nobody present. So matters from staff, any matters from staff? Seeing none, do we have any matters from the public? This is where the zoning administrator asks or welcomes participation in meetings for any item not on the agenda.
No members of the public on Zoom.
And we have nothing, so I'll bring it back to the zoning administrator, and basically I will now adjourn the meeting at 9:21 a.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.